Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Tonight I want to dive into a bold economic proposal that has captured headlines and stirred debate across the United States. The idea of a $2,000 payment, or dividend, to most American citizens, proposed to be funded by the revenue raised from tariffs. It's a move that mixes trade policy, stimulus checks, and fiscal strategy in a way we rarely have seen. The backdrop is this. The current U.S. administration under Donald Trump has pursued sweeping tariff increases on foreign imports, arguing that such tariffs generate revenue, boost domestic manufacturing, and reduce the trade deficit. The president posted recently on his social media platform that a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. People.com. He also declared that people that are against tariffs are fools, in that same post. Hindustan Times. The mechanics of the plan are under development, but here's what we know so far. Revenue from tariffs collected by the U.S. Treasury in 2025 has already reached significant levels, for example around $195 billion through the third quarter of the year. The Guardian. The proposal suggests using these funds, or future tariff revenues, to issue direct payments or tax relief equivalents to Americans, excluding high-income earners. The Times of India. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has weighed in, saying that this dividend could come in lots of forms. It could be just the tax decreases that we are seeing on the president's agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security deductions on auto loans. Mint. So far, it isn't yet a fully fleshed-out program with eligibility lists, distribution dates, and legislative vehicles in place. From a macro perspective, the proposal is interesting for several reasons. First, it turns tariff revenue, historically used to influence trade balances or protect domestic industry, into a form of citizen rebate or stimulus check. Second, it signals a recognition that many Americans feel squeezed. Rising costs, inflation, and wage pressures persist, and a direct payment would have immediate psychological and economic impact. Third, by excluding high-income earners, the proposal frames itself as targeted relief for middle and lower-income Americans. However, the plan also raises significant questions and risks. For one, the legality of the tariffs themselves is under scrutiny. The Supreme Court of the United States has expressed skepticism about whether the president's sweeping tariff power under the Emergency Powers Law is constitutional. Mint. If tariffs are overturned, the revenue base for dividends could collapse. Second, although $195 billion is a large number, estimates show that if 150 million adults qualify for a $2,000 check, the cost could approach $300 billion or more, especially if children are included, meaning the timing and sustainability of funding matter. The Guardian. Third, the distribution logistics and whether the payment is direct cash or tax relief matter a great deal for how much stimulus effect it will have or how quickly people will feel it. From a policy analysis standpoint, there are three key takeaways for viewers interested in business and finance. 1. A stimulus-style payment via tariff revenue is an unusual hybrid. It blends trade policy with social relief. 2. Execution is everything. Without clear legislation, eligibility rules, and administrative mechanisms, the promise may not translate into cash in hand. 3. The broader fiscal context matters. The U.S. already has a national debt tide, and redirecting tariff revenues away from reducing that debt and into direct payments shifts how we think about stimulus, trade, and debt simultaneously. So what could the implications be? If implemented, one immediate effect would be increased consumer spending. Those $2,000 payments or equivalent tax cuts could boost demand across retail, services, and housing. That in turn would support GDP growth in the short term. On the flip side, if tariffs are raising consumer costs, which many businesses argue they are, then part of the relief could be offset by higher prices. Also, businesses dependent on imports or global supply chains may face increased cost pressure, which could ripple through employment and investment. Finally, for investors and financial watchers, keep an eye on sectors such as consumer discretionary, which may benefit from a spending boost, on import-heavy manufacturers or retailers, which may face cost expansion, and on government budget yields and debt markets, because the shift from debt repayment to payments could change fiscal dynamics. Also monitor trade-related legal developments. How the Supreme Court decides on the tariffs will have ramifications not just for trade, but for the dividend proposal's viability. In closing, the proposed $2,000 tariff dividend is a bold instrument. Part stimulus check, part trade policy bonus, part fiscal signal. If it materializes, it could reshape how Americans receive relief and how trade revenue is used. But it remains subject to legal, legislative, and administrative hurdles. For us, Tracking how this evolves, from promise to policy, will be a key story in business and finance for the coming months. Thank you for listening. People.com, The Guardian, The Times of India.